It is because of their lack of concern for what we know is the right thing to do that I, as a parent, am suggesting a strong statement must be made. I am asking that all Rockland County and New York State parents have their children refuse the New York State 3 through 8 tests in April. Refuse the tests. Pencils down before this becomes too big to fail.
I've watched her deteriorate in front of my eyes. She started to hate school. She felt like she was in jail. After realizing that this was because of all of the Common Core, I decided to have her not take the test. And I'm really scared about the future of our children.
The governor has not been responsive to our outcry. The governor believes there are two issues, Common Core and teacher evaluations, and they must be analyzed separately. Where is the issue of data sharing? So I'm here, I gave you a heads up on my email to ask you to please, my main point on being up here today is to ask you to please let us know what federal regulations and state regulations there are against refusing the test.
The emphasis on testing is certainly over the top ridiculous. The content of what they're learning seems to be developmentally inappropriate. I have a big problem with the fact that most of what my daughter learns is nonfiction. There's very little fiction, very little room for creative thinking in this whole curriculum. I just see her. So to me, this is like a real dumbing down of our kids. I have a big issue with the fact that special needs kids are lumped in with everyone else. There's no individual in IEP. They completely lost that individual emphasis. These kids learn differently, and they're at different levels, and that's just how it is, and they don't seem to care. I'm very disturbed also by the fact that our leaders, our leaders don't seem to be listening. Our kids are learning about bullying in school, but I feel that we're being bullied as parents, as teachers,
So it's not enough that we say that we're going to put a moratorium on this. It's not enough that we say that we need to revisit the standards or lobby or something like that. The fact is that New York needs to take a stand and return control of education to the parents and teachers who have resoundingly rejected this Common Core. They're not being taught the proper things. In America, we teach people not what to think, but how to think. Common Core has forgotten that completely. And it's time that we listen, that our Democratic representatives undo what was done undemocratically. Withdraw us, deal with the federal funding issue, lobby Congress, deal with that, but we need to take a stand and say, we're not going to follow and toe the line that some bureaucrats already decided was going to happen. We're not going to bow to their will. We're going to assert our will, what's good for our kids, not what's good for corporations or what's good for an industry.
And I wonder, how did he go from well above average to now well below? And I know why. It's because the tests are not appropriate. It's like me trying to be a doctor and taking, I feel stupid. I don't know any of the answers because it's not appropriate for my level. Math is too complicated and for no reason. Instead of, just adding the regular math, they break it down into 4 different steps. And these steps I never heard of. I can sort of understand it if I take the time to study myself for a 2nd grade homework assignment. But then to teach my own child it, she can't get it. I'm trying to explain it 100 different ways, and there's no reason to get it. All it is adding 2 numbers. That's all you have to do. You don't really need to know why to do it. Just do it. But I'm a stay-at-home mom, and it's taken away my responsibility, and I am home to be with them, to help them after school, driving them here, there, and everywhere, but also to help them reiterate what the teachers and what they've been learning in school, and I can help them, but I can't help them because I don't know what they're doing. I don't understand it. And now it's I might as well not be there. We might as well not even do homework, In English language arts, they're learning, my 2nd grader, again, 7 years old girl, learning about Buddhism, Hinduism, Allah, the Quran, China, Confucius. I can't even hardly pronounce them. She can't spell them. She doesn't know she even lives in like New York State or Pearl River and now we're talking about the whole other side of the world, all these different religions. She doesn't even understand her own yet. You're good. She cries anyway, which is not so funny. She's crying constantly. I tell her she's smart. It's just Common Core. It's nothing. They're asking you things you don't even know the answers to. It's not your fault. It's not appropriate. But I could say that all I want. She's in school learning math for an hour and a half, and she's not getting it.
And now, I don't see how this education is going to help them be college bound. But she's already learned on Common Core, you can get the answer wrong and still get it right. My child shouldn't be coming home with stuff that confuses me. I did go to college. I think I did pretty well. I like to say I know my math. And I got to say, I've told her just add it the way you would normally add it. I don't know the 15 steps. You're never going to, I can actually say you're never going to use that in life because you're never going to draw 50 dots in order to pick a different story that is more appropriate for their age. And I find it hard to believe that it's taken this long for people to put the brakes on this. Even now, the content is riddled with errors. The books are nothing but frustration, especially for a 7-year-old trying to fill in lines this big. It's just, everything about it is frustrating.
None of this can be achieved when children feel that they must surrender to a curriculum that has become sacred dogma in our state in less than 2 years. A student who claims she is surrendering isn't growing, she's given up, she is defeated. Please, do not allow our children to be defeated by an ill-advised curriculum that embraces a one-size-fits-all approach to the magnificent mosaic of children I am entrusted with each year.
But watching and looking at what happened to my daughter, the similar horror stories that you heard tonight, I decided, that's it. I pulled her out. I am not going to be forced into a school district by zip code that failed to implement the Common Core. Now that I am homeschooling, we ourselves have to have an assessment test every other year. She is classified traumatic brain injury from birth. Last year she had to take the test and sit there for 140 minutes, 6 days straight. Heads or tails, it's not going to work in the real world when you get older. I don't know who implemented this. I don't want to know. I seceded. I drop out.
In recent years, in the school that I was in last year, the best math teachers left because they saw this was coming down the road, the teacher evaluations, where standardized test scores are attached to a percentage of your evaluation. But it's even worse. They also increased, just in recent years, the amount of testing from 4 days a year to 6 days a year, which basically wipes out more than a week of school. This September, the teachers showed up to work, and we found the details that a percentage of our evaluations are being tied to math and ELA scores, standardized test scores, right? What about the fact that most teachers don't teach math or ELA? So the way they handle that is that in my school, we were told to pick. What do you want, math or ELA? And it gets worse. Okay, teachers were also allowed to in my school, to opt for a school-wide option, meaning that you can tie your 20% of your evaluation to the performance of the entire school, which means that it means that we're getting evaluated on kids we may have never even met.
It's insane. This is not normal behavior. And my children know this, and they don't want to be around this, and they don't feel safe. Sit and stare. I was so angry that I spent 2 months on the phone making sure that sit and stare policy got taken out of the manual. Well, now sit and stare is being used to bully parents who want to refuse the test. So last year our district sent out a notice the week of the test saying that if your child tried to refuse the test, they would be forced to sit and stare. How do I explain to my kids about compassion, teach them not to bully, when it's being modeled by the administrators who are being bullied by the state, who's being bullied by the federal government. The kids have the weight of their teacher's success on their shoulders. That's crazy. In what universe is it fun or motivating or inspiring or teaching compassion to have the weight of their teacher's success on their shoulders? It's insane. Parents are afraid. I'm afraid because I'm afraid my kids' data is being sold to the highest bidder. I'm afraid I can't protect my children when I send them to school. Like, how nuts is that? It really has gotten crazy. School is not safe. We need to push for a commissioner who understands education. His policies are underinformed and uneducated.
My concerns about Common Core are many, but first of all, Common Core curriculum is a United Nations initiative, United Nations federal coming down, and that's one of my biggest concerns.